Okay. So here I have car object. Here I have what? Car object. Simple empty object I have created. Now JavaScript have given me a method to define the object properties. To define object properties with some metadata. And for that we will use one function called as defineProperty. Define property of which object? Car. Then which property you need to add? Speed, right? And you can say value is 10. Then console.log I can say car. See, console.log I can say car, and can you see the output? It is empty. So here you said that object.define property car into the car object speed has been assigned with the value 10, but why it is not getting printed? One more thing I would like to show you. If you see here car.speed, can you see 10? Which means that you have the speed property is a part of car. The speed property is a part of car. Speed property is a part of car, but it is not getting printed in this car. There is a reason. This thing is, so whatever you have seen over here, value is called as metadata. Object would be having a metadata. See here what you are learning, constructing the object at core level. So here you can see one example. Car.speed is there. Car.speed is there, but it is not getting printed in the console.log, which means that if your object to be printed in console.log, you need to assign some other metadata. Value is also metadata, and there is one other property called as enumerable. Can you see descriptor for the property? It can be for a data property or the accessor property, adds the property to an object or modifies the attribute of the existing property. Here you can say enumerable true, and now run the program. Can you see speed 10? Which means that the object which are created with the object literal notation, the objects which are created with object literal notation, they are by default enumerable, right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
What do you mean by enumerable? We will see that what do you exactly mean by enumerable. But this is the empty object you have. You defined the property called as speed and assign value it to the 10, right? Assign value to what? 10. Object enumerable for getting printed it into the console.log. So there is a different meaning also to the enumerable. We will see that. But see how you have constructed object over here by means of define property. Few more things are there. Now see value is 10. So here I can say car.speed is equals to 40. And again let's print the car. Again let's print the car over here. Can you see? Inside that, again just print over here console.log car.speed, and see here, can you see 10. The value speed you are not updating. You getting my point? What's happening over here?
Yes.
The value to the speed is not getting updated. Then what you need to do? Writable true. The speed property should be writable. Now clear it and see. Can you see now it is 40?
Yes.
Which means that if writable is false, you cannot update the property. You are not allowed to update the property, right? Value 10, enumerable true, writable true. Writable true means what? If you want to do something like this,
Update the speed
value, update the value.
value.
update what? Value. Then you are going to use something called as writable.
Yes.
Okay, so let us document it because this is important. Value, enumerable, writable.
Writable.
Value, enumerable, writable.
Writable.
So let's write first about object.
Yes.
Just a minute. Motion. JavaScript objects, object advance. Now that is enough in this page, or in the advance also let's create the page. Accessors, object accessors, or shall we write in the same page? I think that would be more appropriate. Okay, let's create h1, and here we can say define object dot define property. Object dot define property. What is object dot define property? Well, one thing I would like to tell you, I said value as a metadata, but it is technically not a metadata, right? It's a value. Enumerable, writable, configurable are the metadata, but technically value, well, we have written in the same level of the, we have written at the same level. Just a minute. So technically, we cannot call value as a metadata because it's a value. You cannot consider it as a metadata, but we study that part at the time of other metadata. That's why I said metadata, but technically it's not a metadata. It's a value. Okay, object dot define property. So when you say object dot define property, the method in JavaScript. So here you can say object.define property method in JavaScript is used to define or modify the properties on an object with more control over their behavior. Object method in the JavaScript is used to define or modify the properties on an object with more control over their behavior. This method allows you to specify various attributes of the property such as writable, enumerable. This method allows you to specify various attributes of a property such as whether it is writable, enumerable, and the configurable. Right? Here is the syntax of object.define property. You can define object in this way also. You can define object in this way also. So explanation of each parameter, object. So here you can say the object on which to define or modify the property. property, here you can say the name or the symbol of the property that is to be defined or the modified, and the descriptor, here you can say the descriptor. An object that specifies the configuration of the property, it can have the properties like value, it can have properties like value, writable, enumerable, and the configurable, right? And let's write the example code. Const car, object defined property car, speed, value 10, enumerable, and this thing, right? So if you want to have a greater control, if you wanted to have a greater control, if you wanted to have the greater control over the object creation, if you wanted to have the greater control over object creation, right, you should go with what? Define property. Now, along with the define property, there is a one more method, define properties. So const bird or animal is empty. Multiple properties we can define. Object dot define properties. Here you can define one property, right?
Yes.
Here we can define one property, but with the object dot define properties, we can define multiple properties.
Okay.
Right? Animal, here we can say which object you need to have, animal object, and in the descriptor, see in the descriptor, this is the descriptor, second bracket. So here is the difference. Here there is a name of the property, but here is the descriptor, and here you give animal legs, and inside this you will write all those things. Value 4, it's a beast. Writable, true. Enumerable, true. Legs, and here we can say age of the animal,
Yes.
right? Value or name of the animal, name of the animal, ABC. Writable, true. Enumerable. See, if you want to have a greater control over these properties, console.log animal def prop. Can you see? Animal is getting printed with the legs and name.
Yes.
Animal is getting printed with what? Legs and name. So you can simply write this in this way also. Let's say another object, console.post. Here we can say job colon this, and something like this, name colon job colon 24, age colon name colon, something like this. So you can, this is the object literal notation way, but you cannot say that this is a writable or not over here. Getting my point? If you want to have a greater control over the object creation, which method you will use? Define property.
Property.
If you wanted to have a greater control over particular property like enumerable or writable, you will use which method? Define property or define properties, multiple properties you can define over here, one and same. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's write about that method also. H1 object dot define properties. What is the object dot define properties is a method which is similar to the define property. Object dot define properties is a method in JavaScript that allows you to define or modify the multiple properties on the object at once. It provides a way to set the property descriptors. Remember that this thing is called as descriptor. Which thing? All this thing is called as, technically this is the descriptor. This much is the what? Descriptor.
Descriptor.
This much is what? Descriptor. Value, enumerable, writable. These are the
Descriptor.
descriptors. Okay. These are what? The descriptors. Object.define property is a method in JavaScript that allows you to define or modify the multiple at once. Okay. It provides a way to set the property descriptor for multiple properties in a single call, giving you fine-grained control over their behavior. What is the syntax? See here. Define properties. And here object descriptors, multiple descriptors we can write. This is a one descriptor, this is another descriptor. Correct? So here is an example of how define properties work. Let's have a const animal and this thing. Okay. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible or not?
Yes, yes.
Object.define property. So two methods we have seen over here: object.define property, object.define properties. Okay, there are few more methods we have, and first we will see. Before this, I am going to create one more document, h1 object metadata. Actually, I want to create this as h2, and here we can say h1 object methods. So this is actually h1, this is h1, and this need to be turned to the h2. This also what? There are multiple methods we are going to see. h2. In the object metadata, two metadatas we have seen. Two metadata we have seen.
Yes.
Writable object metadata, just a minute.
Yes.
writable, and configurable. Okay, object metadata. First metadata we have seen writable, correct?
Yes.
This is H2, writable. So in JavaScript, object metadata refers to the additional information. So in JavaScript, object metadata refers to the additional information of the settings associated with an object that can influence its behavior. One of them is a writable. One of such metadata is a writable. One of such metadata is a writable, and one of such property is a writable. The writable property is used to indicate whether a property of an object can be reassigned or its value can be modified. Here is how writable works. Here is how writable works. We have seen in detail, right? Car, and here we can say just for writable purpose I can say false. Here you can say false. In this example, or here you can say, here are some key points about writable. Here are some key points about writable. When writable is set to true, property can be modified. When writable is set to true, the default, the property can be modified. When the writable is set to false, see, when the writable is set to false and attempts to modify the property won't throw an error, but modification will be ignored, right? The property only affects the ability to modify the value of a property itself, not its configurability or the enumerability. It will not impact on other two things, configurability and enumerability. So here you can say object metadata including writable provides. See, now this is very important when you work with the backend like applications or even in the front end. The object metadata including writable provides a way to control the behavior of a properties in the JavaScript object, allowing developer to define properties with the specific characteristics and the constraints, right? So we have seen something called as writable. Now enumerable also. What is enumerable? Just a minute. Okay, enumerable. Enumerable. What is enumerable? Yeah, in the JavaScript, one of such property is the enumerable here. The enumerable property is used to indicate, see now, is used to indicate, see, the enumerable property is used to indicate whether a property of an object should be included in the certain operations such as foreign loops or using the certain methods like object keys, or in certain methods like object keys. So remember that whenever we object keys function we have seen, right, it will print all the keys. For in loop, if you want to iterate over the loop, if you want to iterate object in a loop, you need to use the for in loop. And if you want to print keys or values, or the object dot keys, object dot values, if you want that to be enabled, you will use what? Enumerable true. Right, you will use enumerable true. Yeah, so here is how enumerable works. So we shall have enumerable, let's have same thing, object car enumerable value writable. Let's sorry, let's remove the writable. Okay, let's focus on the enumerable itself. So here you can see, here are some key points about enumerable. When enumerable is set to true, when enumerable is set to true, the property is included in operations that iterate over the object properties. When enumerable is set to false, here you can say, the property is not included in such operations, right, like object dot keys and other things. This property affects the behavior of foreign loops, object dot keys, object dot entries, and the similar operation. Object metadata including enumerable, here you can say, object metadata including the enumerable provides a way to control which properties should be considered when iterating over or working with the object properties. This can be useful when, here you can say, this can be useful when you want to hide the certain properties from the enumeration, or when you want to explicitly include or exclude the properties in specific operation. Enumerable, object metadata, writable, enumerable, right? Then one more metadata is there, configurable. Configurable. Now what is the configurable? We will see first. Configurable. Now see here, let's go to the car, and and okay, let's create a new object, const book object dot define property book, which property? Pages, and here we can say value 100 pages. Okay, enumerable true. Now console.log book. Clear it. Pages 100. Let's try to now you can say delete, we can delete the property book dot pages, and again print the book. See here, can you see the property cannot be deleted. Now you can say just make a writable true then and see what happens. Can you see still writable means what? You can change the value.
Yes.
But I want to delete the key completely. I don't want that pages key inside a book. And in that case, you can use what? Configurable true. Now run the program. Can you see here pages was there, and in here
Delete.
pages key itself is deleted.
Yes.
Pages key itself deleted. Getting my point? Pages key itself is deleted. That's what the configurable is. So you know what is the enumerable,
Yes.
you know what is the writable, what is the configurable. Let's write it. Last property. In a JavaScript, configurable property is a part of the descriptor method. So here you can say in a JavaScript, the configurable property is the part of the property descriptor object used with the methods like defineProperty or properties. This property indicates whether property can be reconfigured using the subsequent calls to the defineProperty. This property indicates whether a property can be reconfigured using the subsequent calls to the object.defineProperty. So here is a brief explanation. Here is a brief explanation. Determines whether, here you can say, it determines whether a property configuration can be changed, including the ability to delete the property. Okay, let's try one thing. Let's make configurable false and writable true. Okay, and just try to change it. Book dot pages is equals to 900. Yeah, there is no impact on the update thing,
Yes.
right? But if you try to delete it, it won't work. See, pages would be there. So of it determines whether the properties configuration can be changed, including the ability to delete the property. Then useful, this method is useful when you want to make the property immutable or prevent it from being deleted. If you try to delete it, this won't happen. So configurable, let's write Let's write the code and const book like this, const book okay. Now when configurable is, here are some key points about the configurable. So here you can say when configurable is set to true, see here, the property can be reconfigured or deleted using the subsequent calls to this. When configurable is set to false, the property becomes non-configurable and subsequent attempts to the reconfigure or the delete the property will result in an error to be ignored. This property provides control over whether a property's configuration can be changed or if it should remain immutable. So it is used especially, so you can say it is used especially in the scenarios where you want to restrict the safeguard the certain property configurations, right? So writable, enumerable, and the configurable.
Configurable.
So object methods, we have define property, we have seen. Define properties, we have seen. Define properties, we have seen. So let me push this much code. Define advanced object. Define properties and metadata and metadata. Now other methods, OTH hyphen mtd dot other methods. Get on, so here we can have const, let's get one object, const book, okay. Now get own property descriptor. So we have defined this property in this way, and object dot get own property descriptor. Just a minute. Okay. So get property descriptor. So here you need to pass for which object, say this book object, right? And for which key, for pages key, right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
And here we are going to get the descriptor. Let's console.log desc. And here OTH other methods, OTH mtd.js. Can you see? Value writable, enumerable, true, configurable, false. Can you see descriptor? Is this?
Yes.
You may comment this out, no problem. And let's try to do that. Here we can say pages 100. So pages is the key. This we have provided here. Can you see by default it's a writable, by default it's a configurable, enumerable, and by default it's a configurable. And you can change it by means of this define property. One and same. Now similarly, there is one more method. Well, there are a lot of methods. Get property names, object.get property names. So here we can say object.get property, object.get own property descriptor and own property names. Can you see own property descriptors? So here you will get array of the descriptors, right? Here you will get what? Array of the descriptors. Get own property names. So it will return the string array, right? Const names is equals to this, and console.log names. Console.log names. Okay. Object dot, here you need to pass the object. We forgotten the object. Say book. Can you see array of names, own property names?
It will give answer in an array.
Array, because it would be having multiple properties, right? Presently you have just simple page. You can have author also. ABC. That's why you will get pages and author in an array. Can you see pages and author? There are two keys.
Yes.
You got it or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now get prototype of. So you can get the prototype of. So here one more method is there. Object dot get prototype of book. Right? Get prototype of book, and here we can say console proto const console.log proto object null prototype of book, because we didn't create the prototype. So if you do something like this, const book proto is equals to, how do you create the object dot create, right? Object or null, remember that, and book, and what? Book. So here you said that this is the book prototype, and here you can say book proto. Can you see now? This proto is looking like book. Why? Because this object you have it will return the new object. Remember that?
Yes.
So object.create will return the new object with this prototype. So this is the book prototype. Or here you can say science book. SCIEN, science book. Science book. So you created the science book from this prototype. What this prototype says? That would be having pages. That would be having what? Author. Right? And here you can say science, SCIENCE. Science book dot subject physics. Right? And see. If you can you see here you are not getting the subject key. Why? Because you have asked for the prototype. What is the prototype of this science book? So here you said that science book is getting created from the book prototype. This is nothing but this science book is getting created from this prototype, and that's why here you will get the prototype and not the object science book.
Yes.
Prototype of the science book is whom? A book. And that's why it is just printing this thing.
Yes.
Get the prototype off. Right?
Yes.
Now there is one more method. Okay. Now another thing. Const car, and here I can say I will define properties normally now. Make ABC. Make what? ABC. So you can add any properties, right? In any form. Car dot, here you can say model is equals to PQR or 111. Okay. Or you can do something like this. Object dot define property on a car object, and price. You are extending this object, right? You are extending which object? This car object. Here also you did extension. Here you extended the object. Here also you extended the object. Right? And we can add descriptor over here. Value 100, enumerable, true. Okay. So here you did the extension, correct? And if you print the console.log car, can you see car, make, model, price, correct? Make, model and price. Now I don't want this to be extended. I don't want this to be what? Extended. So what I need to do? Object dot prevent extension on the car object. Now let us run the project. Can you see there is an error? Can you see? Cannot define the price of the object. It is not extendable. You getting my point? Okay, let's do this thing and clear it. Can you see only make is there? If you see here to this line, it will not give you any error, but this would be excluded, right? Only make ABC. If you see here, what is happening? Make ABC. The model is not getting printed, right? Model is not getting printed. And if you try to do with this here, it will throw the error. Can you see? Cannot define the property price. Object is not extendable. So you can check something like this. Then there is one more method. If object dot is extensible, which object? Car object. If it is extensible, then and only then do this thing, right? Is extensible, so it will give you the particular object is extensible or not. Now see, there is no error, but there it will not throw any error over here, but it will throw error over here to this call, right? Extensible. So let's write document, define property, then get h2, get on property descriptor, get on property descriptor, is used, you know, right, what it is used. The get on property descriptor method in JavaScript is used to get the descriptor for an specified object. The property descriptor provides information about the characteristics of the property, including whether it is writable, enumerable, configurable, as well as the value. I told you value is not metadata, but mostly we will use it with the metadata, right? So syntax for this would be like this. Code, then object, the object containing the property, property name is this. Here is a simple example how it works. Here is the example how it works. Get on descriptor. So we have a book and get on descriptor. Correct? Hello?
Yes.
So there is nothing fancy about get own property names. It will give you property names. So another important method, object dot prevent extensions. Object dot prevent extensions. The object dot prevent extension method in the JavaScript is used to prevent the new properties from being added to the object. It makes object non-extensible, meaning that you cannot add new properties or methods to it. However, existing properties can be modified or deleted. Now here is the syntax. Object dot prevent extensions. Here is the example code. Here is the example code. So where is our example code? Okay, car. This is our example code. So here are some key points. Object.prevent extension. Object.prevent extension makes an object non-extensible, preventing addition of new properties. Existing properties still can be modified or deleted. The method is extensible is used to check the object is extensible or not. This method is useful when you want to freeze the structure of an object and ensure that no new properties can be added. Now seal. There is one more method called as seal. Object.seal method. Okay. Let's create a new file. OTH mtd 02.js. Seal method. What is the object.seal? The object.seal method in JavaScript is used for preventing. In the JavaScript is used to seal the object, preventing the addition of the new property, making all existing properties non-configurable. Remember that here existing properties can be modified, right? Existing properties can be what? Modified or deleted, but here you cannot do that thing. The seal method in the JavaScript is used for preventing addition of the new properties and making existing properties non-configurable. That is what the seal method is. Const book. Here we can say pages 200, author ABC. Object.seal book. Now you cannot add book.subject or ISBN, something like this, and console.log book. Can you see? ISBN is not getting added. Even if you try to delete book.pages, it will not happen. It is sealed. But if you try to delete, if you make it object.prevent extensions, if you try to do this thing, delete will work, this will not work. Can you see? That is the difference between the prevent extension and what? Seal. Interview type question. This is the interview type question. Difference between seal and the prevent extension. Well, there is one more method, freeze. There is one more method, freeze. We will see the freeze method shortly, but this is about the seal. Let's write about the seal method. It makes, well, there is one more method, is sealed. You can check console.log object.is sealed. Which object? Book. So I will write this 2 times before sealing it and after sealing it. Can you see here sealed false, here sealed true? You can check it is sealed or not. Okay, fine, non-configurable. It makes object non-extend, sorry. This means you cannot add a new property, attributes, see here. This means you can't add new properties, delete existing properties, or change the attribute like configurable, enumerable, writable of the existing properties. However, you can still modify the values of the properties. Values can be modified. Pages can be from 300. So here you can do like this. Book dot pages 300. Like this. You can do like this. Existing properties you can modify, but new cannot be added. Right? Here is an syntax of object dot seal, and only one parameter is there, object being sealed. Here is an example how seal method works. How seal method works. I can write all these things here. Right? So key points you need to remember about this. First, object.seal seals an object. Object.seal seals an object, making it non-extensible and making all existing properties as non-configurable. Adding a new properties or deleting the existing properties is ignored after sealing. The object is sealed. The object is sealed. The object is seal method is used to check if object is sealed or not. This method is useful. See, this method is useful when you want to restrict the structure of an object further than the object dot prevent extensions by preventing the modifications to the existing properties as well. Now object dot freeze method. Object dot freeze method. Object dot freeze method. Sorry, it is a h2, right? Object dot turn into h2. This also turn into h2. Hello? So the freeze method in the JavaScript is used to freeze an object, making it immutable. When object is frozen, you cannot add, modify, or delete properties or methods. See, when object is frozen, you cannot add, modify, or delete the, see, even modify, here modification is allowed. Here even you cannot modify. It goes beyond the seal. It goes beyond the object.seal by also making the values of the existing object are read only. Let us see. So here I can say freeze, and is freezed is the method, is frozen is the method, is frozen is the method. Can you see frozen false? And here we have changed the pages. Can you see that is also not happening over here? That is what the freeze method is. Code, or here is the syntax, you can say. object dot freeze, and only one parameter is here, object to be frozen. And here is an example. Code. Like this. Key points. Object dot freeze frozens the object, completely immutable. Adding new properties, deleting existing ones, as well as modifying the values of existing properties is not allowed for freezing. The object dot is frozen, right? We'll check the frozen or not. This method is useful when you want to ensure that object properties and the values remain constant and cannot change throughout the program. Then you will use the freeze method. So we can write it for is sealed. I can comment it. Sealed. Comment it. Comment. Okay. Let me push the code. Advanced object. Seal and freeze. That's it for the day. And that is all about what happened. Unable to access.
First, save the page.
It is saved. Fine, I will see what's happening. Okay.
Yes.
So this is all about advanced object. Okay. Now I will prepare some homework, or we will prepare
Yes.
the homework on the Monday.
Yes.
Fine.
Yes.
Let's call it for a day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.